Successful Escapes, number 21. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. And we have more recollections of successful escapes from people who have utilized my work to ensure that they have removed themselves from the grip of narcissists. I have an extensive library of material that can be found in books on Amazon, assistance packages and logic bulletins that are found in the Knowledge Vault, and of course, you can utilize the detectors to find out what you are, the empath detector, the narc detector to determine are you dealing with a narcissist, and of course arrange, like thousands have done so, to speak to me so that you can receive the benefit of my expertise bespoke to your situation and join the ranks of many, many people who have made good their escape. We're now going to hear from Heather as she explains how she achieved a successful escape.
Hello HG, and hello to everyone listening. This is Heather, though some of you will know me as Bunch House. I've been listening to the successful escape stories, and I felt inspired to share my own, in hopes it can reach someone who shares a similar experience and can find freedom through HG's work. Here is my story. In late 2017, after feeling overwhelmed with the New York City life, I decided to embark on a journey that led me to the Deep South, to the city of New Orleans. I knew only a handful of people in this new city, but a month later, friends I knew from New York were doing a theater production and asked me to be their stage manager, and I happily accepted. He was the proprietor of the venue, a black box theater he had set up in his garage. He was interesting, intelligent, charming, and I appreciated his sense of humor. He had many friends he'd met from operating a theater. Many of them were of the opposite sex. A bohemian scene. My kind of people, I thought. During the production, I was professional, always on time. That's what you do in the theater. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was reading me. He didn't show me obvious signs of flirtation, but portrayed a casual interest in me. I loved to read books. So did he. I loved the arts. So did he. He told me how he came about to set up the theater space as a creative incubator after initially using it as a woodshop. He invited me to his private quarters next to the theater space for drinks after we'd finished rehearsing. He showed me his impressive book collection throughout his apartment on shelves reaching the ceiling that he had built himself. We talked for hours about literature, giving each other book recommendations, listening to records. I thought I had met a friend. Months later, he left to spend the summer months on the New England coast. He texted me every day while he was away, eventually invited me to join him for a week. I wanted to take a trip back to New York to visit friends, so I agreed to come the week before. He was hospitable and very respectful. He didn't make any moves until the day before I left, when he tried to kiss me. But I turned away. He was just a friend, and I wasn't interested in a romantic relationship with him. He respected my feelings, but after I returned to New Orleans, he texted me more and more. He missed me. He wanted me to come back to the beach and spend the week riding back to New Orleans with him in his sidecar through the Blue Ridge Parkway, just as the leaves were turning. My adventurous side couldn't refuse an offer from a trusted friend. This is when he made his move and seduced me. I had no idea I had become the intimate partner secondary source of the shelf variety until 4 years later, when I found the work of HG Tudor. By the time I had found HG, I was already in the second disengagement, post-escape. I had been deeply depressed for several months, not wanting to make art, eating very little. I thought it was due to the pandemic and missing my friends and my home in New York City. Then one day my neighbor convinced me to get out and go for a walk. We ran into him and his female friend. I waved to them, and as they approached, he gave me the death stare. Those of you who know HG's work know what I mean. That icy, cold, reptilian stare. The black eyes. His female friend knew I had been struggling and approached to hug me, but he quickly took her hand and pulled her away. They walked away like they never saw my neighbor and I. I was devastated. Crushed. I felt sick and disoriented. My neighbor helped me to ground myself. He had been aloof and had disappeared for months before, but had never been this cold. I felt like someone threw a bucket of ice-cold water over me. This man wasn't the person I thought he was. My pride wouldn't let me contact him to find out what had happened. My instincts told me I needed to stay away from him, and I did, but I didn't block him. So I got a Hoover text 6 weeks later, and then invited me to a play reading. I ignored it. I still felt angry that he was pretending nothing had happened after being so cruel to me 6 weeks earlier. I focused on myself for a change and found a therapist to help me with my feelings of depression. But I wanted to know what happened and why he could go from such a kind, caring person to becoming so aloof and so cruel. I searched online for avoidant behaviors and found information on attachment theory. I thought I had found the answers I needed for closure. I thought he was a dismissive avoidant. Feeling unsatisfied, I continued researching his strange behaviors and found HG's YouTube channel. It was when I listened to Why Won't He Define the Relationship that I got that pit in my stomach again. My heart rate increased as I listened to this godlike voice perfectly explain my situation. We're friends. She's just a friend. My self-flagellation, and on until I realized I had been listening to this godlike voice for days. Video after video. The narcissist army, the bolt hole, the hunting ground. It was like this godlike voice had been watching my entire relationship, like a theater play he had written himself. It was the full horror moment. Then I purchased the narc detector and I listened to this godlike voice confirm that I had been ensnared by a middle range type B elite narcissist. I wanted to feel like I had reached closure, the conclusion, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow responsible, that maybe I was also a narcissist, even after watching HG's video. Am I the narcissist? I took the empath detector, and this is what truly convinced me of my ensnarement. It was the final piece to the puzzle. It was the final act, HG's brilliant analysis of our whole dynamic. I now understand that I am a contagion empath, and that it was my emotional thinking and addiction to narcissist that was keeping me ensnared throughout my entire life. That I am a sponge, taking in the feelings and emotions of others, and the true reason I had left NYC in the first place. I have returned home to New York. I have blocked the narcissist, including his coterie, and I have come full circle, thanks to HG's amazing work. If you find yourself in a similar situation to mine, listen to HG's videos, read his books, and most importantly, learn who you are in this dynamic by undertaking the empath detector. Thank you again, HG, for helping me and so many others achieve freedom.
Thank you to Heather for sharing her experiences in such detail. Now, John has contacted me asking me to narrate his successful escape. HG, I'm a 31-year-old man, and I would like to thank you for your help getting past the first full-blown narcissist I ever had in my life. We were close friends for 11 years, so she had my entire user manual memorized, and she pounced at a time when I was very vulnerable and lonely. I will spare the details of the failure of the recent 7-month relationship. You described them all perfectly in detail in all of your videos. The golden period, love bombing, the mirroring, most of the lines you quote, such as, "We're soulmates," you name it, she pulled it. I ended it with her during devaluation. She dropped a full horror moment on me and used that as an excuse to distance herself suddenly. I specifically told her, I will give you the time and space you need, but do not use that to pull another guy closer. You can guess what she did and thought I didn't know over the next 3 weeks, and whose dick she jumped on weeks after I broke up with her. I did not reveal the true reason I broke up with her until she tried to get me back 5 weeks later. After I ended it, she kept hoovering, pulling all kinds of weird shit. I didn't know what was going on, truly I didn't, or what she was. She tried to pull me back in. I told her no, and explained what I knew. A day later, she pretended that conversation never happened. I was completely baffled. She seemed like I had genuinely injured her, yet not in a romantic way. Someone mentioned the word narcissist, so I did my research. I found an individual, and he was informative, but he was dry and wasn't able to articulate things like you do. Suddenly, I went from being confused to knowing her well enough through your work to predict her moves days, weeks ahead of when she makes them, with startling accuracy, all assisted by your information, HG. She tries a hoover occasionally, but I've learned to stop them quickly and coldly so that she keeps her distance. I'm a diagnosed spurg. My brain wants answers, and this shit didn't make sense at first. Your work made everything make perfect sense as to what happened and why. Every question I had was answered by your material in its entirety. I bought a few of your materials, and it was money well spent. I'd have bought every package if I wasn't broke. I do know contact to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, she works part-time at a place I've been frequenting for 26 years, so I do see her from time to time, but I've never once raised my voice or called her a name to play victim with. Ever since absorbing your content, the few times I have interacted with her, I was sure to give her as little fuel as possible. My life has improved immensely thanks to you and your content. For that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are the real fucking deal, and I hope all of your endeavours succeed. Those are John's observations in relation to how he's utilised my work. If you've a story that you'd like to share, to inspire other people about how you have used my work to effect a successful escape, then all you need to do is send in your video or audio file, along with, in some instances, if you'd prefer, the written narrative for me to read on your behalf. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.